Waiting on one yet?
Waiting on one.
Okay.
Better put that puppy on silent.
Okay, we're going to get started. If you guys can begin with, if you can just close your devices for right now, I am going to give you time to play and do some things with it, but with the settings and things that I'm going to show you. But for right now, if you can just keep them closed, that'd be great. All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Annette Wisey. Actually used to work for Fairbury Public Schools, but work with the Educational Service Unit in Beatrice now. So I get to work with Fairbury now, plus 9 other schools, kind of in Jefferson, Gage, Saline counties. So kind of exciting. Thayer counties, not Saline County. So I get to talk to you today about Gmail. How many of you use Gmail already? Have your own personal Yahoo or Hotmail, or maybe it's a Gmail account? How many of you check that account every day? Not as many. Not as many. And I know your age, you do more with texting and social media, and that's how you communicate. But it is going to be important that you learn to check that email every single day, because with you being on one-to-one now, your teachers are going to be sending things out to you that are going to be important for you to get each day. And I can show you some things that will help you notice whether you have messages or not, regardless of whether your email is open and you're actually in email. That will help with that. But you're going to want to start checking that email each day. And especially as you move out of high school and into college, college professors will actually change class times and will mail out presentations and stuff via email. And if you don't check your email, you might show up to a class only to find out it's no longer happening at that time or in that room, and you're kind of out of luck. And certainly in the workplace, if I get an email that's important and I miss it because I didn't check it during the day, that can be a problem. So get into a habit now of checking that email every single day. Okay? A couple of things to know about the email on your Chromebooks. You are set up with Fairbury Public Schools email accounts. So those are within the Fairbury Public Schools domain only, which means you can only email to other people with that account who have Fairbury Public Schools email accounts. Okay, so your teachers and other students here at the high school, middle school, high school, you'll be able to email to those. But if I wanted to send you an email to your Fairbury Public Schools, you wouldn't receive the email from me because I'm not within the Fairbury domain. Or you could not send me an email through your Fairbury Public Schools email account either. Okay? Occasionally, it might be important that you might need to do that because you have a research report that you're writing and you have to email outside of the domain to get more information. Or you have a scholarship application you need to email somewhere. Or you need to receive an email from somewhere giving you some information for a project in a class. If that's the case, you can get special permission. You'll need to go to the fairburygefs.org, your homepage, and click on the quick links. And within the quick links, there's a technology help desk, and you can request that permission there. Okay, so you can make some special arrangements, but for the most part, it'll be just within Fairbury Public Schools. Okay? Something else to know about your Chromebooks and your email, they are content filtered all the time. So whether you're on the internet trying to go somewhere that you shouldn't be, or if you're sending an email that has inappropriate content in it, whether language or whatever, that's going to go through the content filter. The emails will not go wherever you're emailing it to if it's considered by the content filter that there's objectionable material in there. Instead, it'll go directly to Mr. Vetter, and he will be reading your email and deciding if it's offensive or inappropriate or whatever. So keep that in mind as you're using your devices, and it doesn't matter whether you're here in school using them or whether you're at home on your own wireless systems or internet systems, or whether you're sitting at McDonald's in Beatrice on their wireless system. Because they are Fairbury devices, it's going to be routed back through to Fairbury Public Schools and the content filter here. So wherever you're at with this device, it's going to be filtered. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're using it appropriately. There is the Stop It program. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that there's a Stop It program that exists that kind of outlines if you're not being responsible with your devices, these are the things that can, could, will happen at that point. So if an email gets sent to Mr. Vetter, gets routed to Mr. Vetter, he'll read it and he'll determine based on that Stop It program what happens. I know that you can at some point lose the privilege of having the device. You're not going to want to do that. Lots of things can happen through the devices, and if you've lost yours in your classes doing some kind of project with a device and you're not allowed to have it anymore, you're kind of out of luck. That makes it very difficult to do your work. Less fun as well. It's more fun to do work on your devices than it is paper, pencil, or using textbooks or whatever. So make sure you're using them appropriately. What you see up on the screen right now is my email. And it's going to look a little different than yours for a couple of reasons. Partly, I'm on a MacBook. I'm on a computer rather than a Chromebook, so some things look a little bit different, just the way my computer is set up. But also, I have personalized my email with some settings and with some labs. I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to have the ability to personalize yours as well and make some changes to fit how you want to use it as well. So we'll talk a little bit about the items that are in the different spaces on here. So down the left side, all of these across the top, and actually if I were to click on one of my emails here, you see I got many more options up here. There's more options over here that we're going to talk about as well. So this down the right-hand side is a lab that we'll talk about. So is this. These are the people that you can chat with. And chat has not been shut off at this point for you. You will have that ability to chat and video chat, I believe. So, but yours right now will show up down here where my calendar is instead. Okay? So, to show you how I've made some of those changes, we're going to start with the settings. So, your settings are in this gear box up here. So, here shortly I'm going to let you play with them, but for right now just watch. So, in that gear box, if you click on it, there's some options there of how to set up the display. I have mine, because I get so many emails all the time, I have it set up so that I can view the maximum number on my screen at a time. So here with this drop-down menu, you can click and change the number of items that show up here. I have mine set for the maximum. And because I have it set for the maximum, then in my gearbox, I actually have it set to be pretty compact as well, so that more are showing up in a tighter space. You can change that however you want to do that. But we're going to go into settings for right now. In settings, you have lots of options, and we don't have time to talk about all of them, and some of them really are not very interesting and not very important for you either. So all of these labels across the top, have different sets of settings that you can change and make your email work differently, okay? So some of those that we don't talk about, you can go in and play with them. If they didn't want you to have access to it, they've taken that access away. So you can play with some of those. You may find out that some of these topics that I have up here don't show up on yours as well, because that may already be removed from you. But we're going to talk about the general settings, we're going to talk about labs, and we're going to talk about themes, okay? Even within general settings, there's a lot of these things that we just aren't going to talk about because you can mess with them, but some of them really just aren't that big of a deal. But wanted to point out some that can be very useful. Some people really like them, some don't. So the first one is this conversation view. Okay, I believe mine has been on for so long. I believe that the default is that this is off, but I don't know that for certain. So you'll have to look when I give you a chance to get into your settings here shortly. But conversation view, when you look at my inbox, you can see that I have some messages that just has a person listed or a company has sent me an email. But I've got others that it lists multiple people here, and it has in parentheses a number. And if I scroll down to some others, you're going to see that down here, that happens as well. There's quite a few where there's multiple people that are part of that. This is conversation view. So basically, these are emails that have gone back and forth either between myself and one other person or a group of people that have been initially included in an email. And it kind of links all of those emails together in a big long thread. So kind of nice that they're connected because you can see all of these emails. Those would all be listed separately, and my email would really be jammed up. But listing them in threads is kind of nice because then you can follow that conversation that happens. One thing to know about that conversation view, though, when we talk about searching here in a little bit, the search feature does not work very well with conversation view. And it doesn't work well because when it searches, it only searches for the person who sent the email last. So if what you're searching for was one of those emails earlier in that thread, it's not going to find it. It's only going to search through the very last one. So it doesn't allow for search to work well. I don't know. I find that having the thread together, the benefit of that outweighs the issue of not being able to search through it. And you can always shut conversation view off. If you need to search through all of them, you can always go in, shut conversation view off, do your search, find it, and then turn it back on. So I personally like that pretty well, but it's a personal thing. You're going to have to decide for yourself whether you like that. Another one is this enable undo send. You'll want to look at that one. That one, I believe also, the default is that is not on. I like having it on because every so often I send an email, and the second I hit that send button, I realize, oh, I should have added this in the email, or I forgot to put this in there, or wait, that wasn't right, I need to fix that. So undo send, if I were to send an email, so I'm just going to choose one, put some garbage in there, I'm going to send it, oh, I need to call that back. Now I have this ability to hit undo, and it pulls that message back before it actually delivers it to that person. I can go in and make any changes, hit send, and it'll go out to them. So that's pretty handy. I use that actually quite a bit. You have the ability with that undo send. I have mine set for 10 seconds, which 10 seconds is enough for me in most cases. You can put it only for 5. 5 is pretty quick. By the time I realize I've forgotten to put something in there, that 5 seconds is gone and I've missed it. 10 seems to work pretty well. You can go all the way up to 30. So you can set that how you want. But that's pretty nice to have that ability to call something back in case of a mistake. Stars are pretty nice as well. The default is going to have it as only 1 star like this, only giving you that yellow star option. When you do the yellow star, click that. So within my inbox, you can see there's a star column. I can go ahead and label it with a star or without a star. Okay? It didn't change my thing back, but in the settings, so originally you'd only have the 1 star ability. I had changed mine to 4. And you see it automatically gives you a couple stars and a couple other options. You have the option of all of these, and you can move them around by dropping and dragging and choosing what you want. So I can get rid of this check mark, and I can add the green star instead. I can add a red star and get rid of this. I can do what I want and choose the coding system that I want there. So that's kind of nice. So now when I go into my inbox again, now when I click on the stars, and sometimes this works real well, sometimes it takes a couple times, I can make it yellow, but if I want to color code my classes, so maybe my science class is green, my math class is red, social studies is purple or whatever I choose, and this email is from science, okay, I've got my yellow, but I need green. So I can keep clicking through, okay, there's my green star, so I can color code. And maybe this is social studies, so I'm going to code it blue or whatever. I can start color coding my inbox, and that will help me find specific emails later as well. Okay? Can choose to do that, can choose not to do that. That's up to you. Anything that you can organize to make it easier, though, is helpful. New mail notifications on. Again, the default will not have those on. I do turn it on because, and you can't see it very well because it runs off the top. But now that I'm in Chrome, I have a tab open for Gmail. So it has that white box with the red M on it. What you can't see is below that M, it has a number. Mine says 100 plus. So even if I'm not in email, if I'm in one of my other tabs, I can see that over there, and I can see when I'm getting new messages coming in. So if I see I get a new message, I can just click over and check it quick. So that's kind of helpful. Students oftentimes like to personalize with your own pictures. So you can put a picture in here. On your Chromebook, it becomes difficult because the Chromebook doesn't have that brain to be able to store stuff on the device. So you're going to have to store it in Drive and then go and search for your picture there to put it in here, or go to a regular computer, get your picture in there, so that and it'll be there for your Chromebook as well. It also is not going to let you just take a picture that automatically goes in there. You'll have to store it in Drive, go in and search for that picture, and you can import it that way. But you can get your picture in there, and you can set up kind of a signature line. So every email that I send out, Gmail automatically puts all of this in there. It's a lot, I know. But when I send them out, I like everybody to have all of this information, because in my business world, it's nice. Oftentimes they need that information. So if it's just part of my signature, it's there. And Gmail, I type it into here one time, Gmail automatically puts it in there every time. That can be really handy. So you might want to use that, you might not. It gives you, just like Word, it gives you editing features up here to make that look however you want. So, so it's kind of nice. Let's see, on one of the other tabs here, you have the ability to use labs. So one thing to point out about labs is right here. This is from Google themselves. Labs are crazy experimental stuff. I don't know how crazy it is, but it's definitely experimental. Some of the things in labs that you enable down here, some of the things work very well and end up being a part of Google. Some of the things don't work well at all and end up disappearing. Some of them work pretty well but have little glitches in them here and there. So you can play with them, but just know that they're experimental. They're not fully functioning yet. So these names on the right-hand side is an example of one of these labs. So if I were to scroll down, right side chat is enabled. That's what this is, right side chat. The very top one, I've enabled it. I haven't messed with it much, but it's called canned responses. And I'll show you more about that in a little bit. That's enabled right now. This calendar is one of these labs that's enabled. So the canned responses, I haven't played with it yet, so I don't know how well it works. It seems like it's simple enough, but I haven't used it, so don't know. This right side chat works very well. Very well. I haven't had any glitches with it at all. It just works really nice to have people over here. You can click on them and chat with them. The calendar, for the most part, works really well. So I've got my calendar there, and it tells me what my next 2 days, any meetings that I have on my calendar show up down there. Now the thing with the calendar, it works pretty well most of the time, but every so often the calendar doesn't load, and so I'll get a message down here that just says calendar failed to load. That's just a glitchy thing with the calendar. But for the most part, it works pretty well. So there's lots of labs in here that you can try. See what they do. Play with them. See if you like them or not. There's been some of these labs that when I started them, when I enabled them and I play with them a little bit, all of a sudden something within my Google apps stops working. Or I'm experiencing difficulty somewhere in my Google apps. Sometimes that's because one of these labs is interfering. So if you have just activated a lab and you find out you're having trouble with your Gmail, first thing I would do is go back and disable that lab and see if it fixes your problem. Because there has been a couple of times where I've had to do that and it does fix the problem. So labs are something you want to play with. See whether you like them or not. There's always new things in there to mess with too. So it's worth going back and looking once in a while. The other thing you guys might like to do are themes. And there's two ways you can get to themes. One is through these tabs here. Click on themes, then you can go to set theme. You can do it there. Or under the gearbox, right underneath that settings, is a themes label as well. It's the same thing, it's just two different ways to get to the same thing. Themes basically are wallpaper for your Gmail. I don't have any on mine. With my right side chat and my calendar, and I've got so much going on my email, and because I'm getting old, I don't like all of that extra stuff there. But I know that you guys as students really kind of like changing your wallpaper. So you can go in and you can do that. You can select a wallpaper and you can see what it looks like. So that's up to you. You can import different themes as well. So if you had some themes last year that you used, you can import them in. You can use that here as well. So that's up to you also. I'm going to get rid of it though because I don't like using them. Overstimulation for me, I guess. I don't know. So you have several things in settings that I've gone over here now. I want to give you a little bit of time to play with those things. Not a lot though, because we don't have tons of time. So only about 5-6 minutes or so to play with those settings, play with themes, do a signature if you want, any of those things. And then I'm going to bring you back together. We're going to talk more about emails and how to send, how to delete, how to sort and search, all of that kind of stuff. So about 5-6 minutes. Funny, the Swivl in the first group, there's a kid to the left there that I think she wasn't disruptive, but that Swivl kept wanting to her and just look right at her. It made her participate so much better. I just laughed. I said, well, it's supposed to be following this, but I guess there's someone else watching instead. It just made her squirm. It was almost funny. Okay, about 1 more minute, then we're going to move on. they brought it in and put this around my neck and said, we're recording. So I'm not sure if they're going to put it into the Canvas account, you know, because there's probably some students that are gone today. So my guess is I think it just liked being on you guys better. I think they're just videotaping some of the sessions to put them into Canvas, so for the kids who weren't able to be here, they can then watch. Okay, if you could close your Chromebooks for just a little while again. I'm going to try to get through all of the next batch of information so you have a few minutes at the end to play with it again. But want to get into the actual inbox and sending, receiving messages. We've already talked about the conversation view and the starred, how you can color code. We've talked about that. What we haven't talked about is like with the starred things. So if I start labeling some things with stars, I can search for those more readily. So if I know I've got some emails in there that I have starred and I've color coded them, I can go over here to the left side and I can search for them. If I click on starred, only the things that I have associated stars with are going to show up there. And then you're going to see the stars are going to show up here, not necessarily grouped by color, but if you're looking for something that you know you starred with a green star or a blue star, you can pretty easily scroll down through your list and narrow down that search and find just those items. So that's kind of helpful. Stars are something that you put onto items. You're making that decision there. Okay? Important, you can search for important as well. Important are the items that have this little label thing colored in yellow. Something to know about that is initially when your items, your email come into your Gmail box, some of them will have that label on them. That label is put there by Google. So Google is doing diagnostics on your incoming email. And when you start receiving email from the same person, lots of times, or about a specific content, lots of times, it's going to start distinguishing that as important. And so those items are going to come in flagged yellow here. Okay? So that could be helpful. I mean, this looks pretty good here that only those few are flagged. But if I were to go down through my email, okay, now look what happens. They're flagging most of my stuff as important. So that's no longer helpful for me. So initially, Google is making that determination. Although once it comes in, if I decide I see this email and, okay, this is just weekly schedule for my kids, I may or may not think that I need that flagged as important. So if I want to change it, I can click on it. I can get rid of that. Or, let's see, maybe this has come in, you know what, here's something from Walmart. It's come in. I know it's a good sale thing, so it should be marked as important, and it's not. I can click on it and I can label it as important. So initially, Google's going to make that determination, but just know that you have the ability to change that. And if you want to search using that important feature over here, it's probably best that as your emails come in, you are watching that and you are adding or subtracting that important flag to it. Okay? Because if yours ends up like mine, because I don't use them, if I search by important, it really isn't narrowing down my inbox because everything's labeled as important. You can get into your sent mail over here on the left as well. So if you've sent a message to somebody and for whatever reason they didn't receive it, it might have went into their spam. Maybe they received it but haven't actually looked at it yet. You can go back into your sent mail and you can find that message. You can resend it, or you can tell them, look on December 19th at 3 o'clock. That's when the message went. So you can find those messages again. If you start an email and don't get it finished and sent out, it'll be sitting here in your drafts. And then I have a whole lot of folders and things sitting here. But if you scroll down further, the bottom says more. Go a little bit further. Now you're going to have your spam box and your trash. So if you put something in your trash, you can always retrieve it back out, unless you delete your trash. But it's sitting here so you can get it back out. Your spam box, because you guys are only receiving emails from within the Fairbury domain, it's not likely that you're going to have a lot of spam. But it's good to get into a habit of checking spam, because I tend to check mine about Wednesday of every week. So last Wednesday I did check mine. We're Monday, I've got 273 spam messages in there. So probably if I click on them, they are going to be a lot of companies sending out stuff. It's Christmas time. They're trying to get me to buy stuff. So there's lots of companies in here. But it is good to go through and look at those every so often, because sometimes you get a message put into spam that really isn't a spam message, and it's something you're going to want to have. So you can sort there as well. Let's see, labels and folders is another way that you can organize your email. So if I were to select an email again, and I get these extra items coming up here. Okay, you have folder and you have labels. Really, they're very similar to each other. The difference is, okay, I've got all these things that you saw me scroll through. Those are all folders and labels. Okay? The difference between folders and labels is when you label it as a folder. So if I were to put this into a folder, I don't know, Moodle, it's going to take it out of my inbox and it's only going to sit over here. I can still get to that email, but I have to click on that folder to get to it. Okay? If instead of a folder, I put it as a label of Moodle, now it's going to put it over here in this folder, and it's also going to keep it here in my inbox. Okay, so it looks the same doing it both ways. If I do folder, I can scroll through and simply select a folder, or I can create a new one. Labels the same thing, and it looks just the same. I can go through and I can select, but this time it's going to leave it in my inbox as well. Or I can create a new one. Okay, does that make sense? So I don't tend to use labels very often. I tend to use folders instead, because if I'm going to assign a label to it, I want it out of my inbox. To me, I don't want it both places. I only want it one. So I tend to put it into a folder so it sits over here and it's not clogging up my main part of my inbox anymore. Okay, does that make sense? Send and receive, those work very similar no matter what emails that you have. So if you hit compose, you can send it to someone. Then you have options across the bottom as well. So you can change the font, the size, you can bold, italicize, you can center a line or whatever, you can bullet it. All of those options are there. I want to spend more time down here because there's a couple of these on your Chromebooks that are not going to work for you. This little paper clip is attachment. That would be, if I were to click on attachment, I would have to search for a file somewhere on my computer to attach to that email. Because you're on Chromebooks, you don't have documents stored on your Chromebook to search for. So if you were to click on that paper clip, you're not going to find anything to search for. It's not going to work here. You can use it on a regular computer, but not on your Chromebook. Okay, same thing with image. If I clicked on image, I'm going to have to search for something within my computer to attach. That's not going to work on your Chromebook because nothing is saved on your Chromebook. So for your Chromebook, you want to use the Google Drive icon here. And you'll want to save all of your documents, all of your images in Drive. So if I click on that, Drive comes up and it looks very similar to what your Drive actually does. You can access all of your files and everything. You can select one and you can attach it to the email then. Okay? There's also, you can insert a link. So if I wanted to insert a link here, I could go, I just cut and pasted it right in there, hit OK, and now it's going to put, it should have magically put that link right into my email, and it didn't do it. Try it again. There it is. So the link that I pasted in there is now right here in my email as a live link that they can click on and go to. So that's kind of nice. There are emoticons in there for those of you that like to use emoticons. Doesn't look like very many here, but these are each links that will give you more. So there's actually quite a few. And then down here, you know, I told you in the labs, there's that canned responses. So in settings, you can set up something that's called a vacation response. So basically, if you're not, a lot of times I'll send an email to somebody and I'll get a message back right away saying, sorry, I'm not in the office until this date. That's a vacation response. It's in settings. And basically, any in-message that comes when you have that enabled is going to get that exact same message. So that can be kind of handy. But another one that is similar but allows a little more personalization is canned responses. That was that lab. I enabled canned responses. So for example, Jan Reimer is the bookkeeper where I work. She pays the bills and does payroll, all of that kind of stuff. So once a month, we have to send her our calendars that tell her what days we worked and what hours we worked throughout the month. So every month I send her a message that says, here's my calendar, and the calendar's attached. Well, I just type it in, but I could make a canned response, new canned response, and I could make it say, here's my calendar. So every month when I send her that, instead of typing it in, I could just go down here to canned responses, and it would show up down here. I could click on it and it would insert it. That's not a very long message, so it doesn't take very long to just type it in, so I haven't done that yet. But there might be some responses that you have that maybe you want to make as canned responses because they're a little longer. So, but that's in there. If you want to request a read receipt, you can do that from here. So if I want to make sure that Jan has received my calendar, I can click on this, and then when she gets the message, when she opens it, it'll ask her whether it should send a receipt back to me. That's the problem with read receipt. It used to be that when you requested a read receipt, it just automatically did that. Now it gives the recipient the option of whether they want that to happen or not. So if they say yes, you'll get the read receipt. If they say no, you won't. So just be aware of that. Label, sometimes you want to send something and make it stand out in the email. So maybe you have a late assignment and you want to make sure that that teacher you're sending it to knows right away that that assignment is there. So you could create the email with the assignment, and then by label, you can go in and you can add a star to it. And if you've selected multiple color stars, you can actually click through So if this is science class and science class is a green star, you can go through and you can click until you have that green star, add the star. I'm going to change this to myself. You can send it. Then when it comes in your inbox, you can see that it comes in labeled with that green star. So that might make that email message stand out more to that teacher or your fellow student or whoever. Okay, so it's kind of like marking it as important, but it's color coding it, making it stand out anyway. Let's see. We did the attached file already in the photo. Okay, chats. You do, for right now, have the ability to chat with each other on here. So chats are kind of nice. I use them all the time because I can see these people that I chat with pretty regularly. They're all online right now. This green dot tells me they're online at their computer right now. So if I needed to know something from Don Fernandine, I can click on him. Okay, you can see we've chatted before, and I can send him a message here. And he would get it, and I could even see when he starts typing a response, it'll even say Don is typing, and will let me know that. You can also add a picture. You can draw a picture in there and send it. You can take a picture and send it. You can add emoticons in there. You can do a video chat. So how many of you use like FaceTime or Skype or something like that? Same concept, except this is Google Hangouts. So if I clicked on that, I could get into a video conference right now with Dawn. So that's pretty cool. I use that feature a lot. It's really very helpful. And on that right side chat, so if you've enabled right side chat, you've got options for viewing it down here. So right now I just have it, I'm viewing it by the person. But I can view it by messages as well. So when I click that, basically it still gives me the person, but it gives me a little bit, kind of a preview of the message, the last message that I sent with that person. Okay? I don't know. I don't use that a lot. Usually just having the person is enough for me, but again, that's a personal preference. You can also do, you can call like, okay, this is my administrator. This is actually the ESU's phone number, but from my computer, from Google Hangouts, I can call directly to the work. And instead of talking to him via his computer, I can call the phone line with my computer. I haven't done that a lot because I use the chat feature. It's just quicker, but you can do it. So it's kind of nice. Let's see, I did stars versus, did I do labels? I did labels and folders with you guys, right? Okay. Archive versus delete. I tend to delete things when I'm done with an email. I tend to just hit the trash button and get rid of it. I don't feel that one in particular was from a company. I don't need to save it. Don't have any need for that in the future, so I just trash it. But some people don't like to get rid of emails. Sometimes they think they might need that at some point. So you can choose to archive it instead. You have like 25, each of you has like 25 gigs of storage space in your archive. You will never run out of storage space for your emails. So if you want to archive every email that you have, you can, and you don't have to worry about running out of space. You won't. To archive it, you'd select the email, and the archive is this button right here. And you click on it, it'll give you a message that it has archived it, and you can find it later in the archives if you want to. Okay? So that's archive or delete. One other feature that is really very handy, and I've only got 3 minutes to tell you about it, I haven't personally used it. I keep thinking I'm going to, and I just haven't yet. But up here by the mail button, there's a drop-down menu. So this is where you would create contacts. But there's this button called Tasks there. Basically, it's a to-do list. So it shows up down here. I want to start using it. I think it would be very handy. I just haven't yet. But I do have my son using it. My son is a 7th grader this year, and they're on Chromebooks 1-to-1. I was really concerned when he moved from elementary to junior high, and they're not on the block, so they have 8 periods a day. I was really worried that he was not going to be able to keep track of what he needed to do for every teacher in each period and get his homework done. So I showed him how to use tasks. So in each of his classes, if his teacher assigns something to do, he goes into his tasks and he'll type it in. So if it's Science Chapter 1 review, he'll put that in there. If you click on the little arrow beside it, you can actually add a due date. So maybe it's science test. It's Monday and the teacher is saying we're going to have a test on Friday. So he goes in, he types it in, he puts the due date as Friday. He can add some notes there, whatever. You can move it around in the list so you can put them in order, which one's due first. But he does that for each of his assignments all day long. Then when he comes to his study hall at the end of the day, he pulls up his tasks and he's got his to-do list of what he needs to work on.
Students, please come to the office. Jason Furman, Michaela Bartles, Brianna Cephas, Lathan Block, Greg Borch. Also, please clean out your gym lockers before you leave today. Thank you.
I don't know who that was. I don't know. But then he'll go into it and he'll start working on things. And as he completes them, he checks off the box. Or you can just delete it. If you click on the arrow, you can actually just delete it too. You can put it in the trash and it'll get rid of it. But that's been really handy. He uses that all the time. It might be a list, maybe you're working on a project with some other kids and you've divided up the steps. So you could make a to-do list with people's names assigned to it. And there's lots of ways to use that, so keep in mind that that's there. Okay, any questions? All right.